Welcome, friends. Thanks for coming this morning. It is the 9th day of January in 2021. 21, it's legally can drink now. How delightful is that? Well, thanks so much for everybody joining us. It's been a heck of a couple of weeks, hasn't it? Yes, I'm afraid that it has. Indeed. So just a quick shout out to Bill Tano and Flat Accord Music, and of course, Brian Staveley and Chiquita and Karen Preston and Ginger Sugarbush and Thunder Chicken and Bob Globebusters. Great to have you with us, my friend Kevlar and Cami Eisling 717 and the whole the whole crew. It's great to have you with us. I was telling our guest backstage this morning that I had a dream. That's right. It was Friday night. Yes, last Friday night. I had a dream. And so that's going to be interesting to see how that unfurls. I sound better. I feel better. I don't know if I'm going to go run a marathon today, but I do definitely feel a whole lot better than I did before. And thanks largely in part to the kind thoughts and prayers and encouragement of folks just like you. Thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate the kind words of encouragement and all the tips that you guys gave me. One of the things that helped the most, believe it or not, just massive doses of vitamin C. Really did an enormous job there. Let's see, I had a whole list of things I wanted to get through, but I was just going to say, did you see that shit this week? Come on, man. I think that's probably all we got to say about that. Like, what? Really? You guys gonna? Oh man, seriously. So, as we often do, in fact, this is one of the primary purposes of having this channel was to talk to people about their own awakening journey. And our guest this week is one that you probably already know well. She has been in this community, in fact, far longer than have I, although I've been searching for the truth for a very, very, very long time, as has she. I didn't actually join this community and get really in part until just a couple of years ago. But she has been here for a very long time indeed. And in just about every aspect, if you can imagine, if there's an alternative to the mainstream narrative, our guest certainly has at least entertained it. Would you help me welcome, please, the inimitable and indefatigable Karen B. Welcome, Karen.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's a delight to have you here. And I was going to say before the show started, there's really only two questions what makes you such a badass and how did you get to be such a badass? And go.
Oh my gosh.
Because, everyone already knows you're a badass. So we'll just take that as a given. All right, Karen. So yes, put you on the spot. So yes, why are you such a badass and how did you get that way? And that's it. That's our show for today.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
The truth, Karen. By God, the truth.
I don't know.
Well, okay, that's a deep subject.
Yeah.
Let's dig deep then. Okay, so I'll try to do this better. All right. So, Karen, if that is your real name.
As far as I know, it is.
As far as you know, that was given to you. All right, so let's go back. Tell me about young Karen, your family of origin. How many kids? What was that like? Belief system? Were you a military brat? What did that look like?
No, I was not a military brat. I actually
just a regular brat.
I'm an only child.
Okay.
Raised by a single mother.
Whoa.
Yeah, in the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, California. That's where I grew up.
Ooh, you a hippie kid. You a crystal hugger. Woo. All righty. Give me some of that. Give me some of that crystal squeezing. I love it. All right.
So I don't know. I mean, it didn't seem, to me, it seemed pretty normal. I can't there was nothing really terrible that happened in my childhood
But
that I
all your friends
remember.
knew, all your friends could recite all 7 chakras.
I mean, I didn't
It
know
seemed
anything
totally normal
about
to
that
me.
stuff. It's just the only thing is that I just I was a only child raised by a single mom, and I was like a latchkey, one of them latchkey children. I had the key to the house around my neck, and after school I walked home and I let myself in and I locked the door behind me and I stayed there till my mom got home.
Yeah, I was nodding in agreement when you see latchkey kids, and it suddenly occurred to me that most people that are not our age or our generation would not even know what that is. A latchkey kid? What the? Is that like a Cabbage Patch Kid? What is that? But I think you described it well, right? We came home, our parents were working, and so we just got in after school and did whatever we want and took care of ourselves until the parents came home. And by then we were, well into, we'd already had our, lunch, snacks, dinner, whatever. Yep. So... All right. So, single mom, only child of a single mom. So you got certainly all the attention. Did you have one of those relationships with your mom that was more BFFs than parent-child?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Looking back, it probably was like that because, when I was growing up, that's our thing was like we would go to see the new movie that was released, that Friday. Whatever it was, it was like back then it was only like 1 or 2 movies a month.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And so that's what we did. And but she worked a lot. My mom worked a lot. She worked very hard. She worked for the phone company. So she was the 411 operator. When you called 411, that was
her.
My mom answered that. Yeah.
And for those of you who are too young to understand 411, that 411 was information. So you say, give me the 411 on so-and-so. That means give me their information. You'd call and say, I need a number. And you could get operator-assisted dialing and all that good stuff. All right. So any sort of belief systems if I were to guess, it'd be more along sort of the new age hippie love and light sort of thing, but I could be wrong there.
Actually, no. It was more like the traditional Christian house, like family. I have a lot of family members that are very religious. They go to church every weekend. My grandmother is very religious. Whenever I stayed with my grandmother, she would read to me from the King James Bible. Pretty Christian. Although my mom was never really, she wasn't a hardcore Christian practitioner. Like she didn't take me to church. It was like I went with friends or with grandma, but it was my mom was never really very religious. My mom was more into the geeky, sciencey. My mom liked Carl Sagan,
Yep.
Big into that. So I kind of got my love of science and that sort of thing from my mom because she was always into that. She had subscriptions to like Science Magazine and Discovery Magazine back when they were magazines and not channels yet.
Right. Yeah.
And I used to read those. I remember being like a child. This is so weird. When I was a child, I read about buckyballs.
Yep.
and how they found Buckminster Fuller found the strongest molecule, and it was the buckyball.
Buckyball. Yeah. Oh man, I'm all over that. Yeah, this is.
Yeah, so isn't that weird? That's just weird, huh?
No, we had sort of similar childhood, or again, we fell for the same programming or whatever. Curious about that. Here's I don't know. So anything, if I touch on anything that you're not comfortable with, you just kind of go, steer away from it. That's fine. So being as your mom, you grew up in a single parent household. Did you grow up knowing your dad? Was he distant or just kind of absent? Were you in a household where did your mom hate men? Kind of one of those types? Or I'm trying to get a sort of a sense of the way your world looked as you were growing up.
Okay, well, my dad, I remember him being around when I was very, very young, and then he just wasn't around anymore.
Okay.
And it was, you know, I don't, I haven't really talked to my mom very in depth about really went on there, but basically, I figured he's not a very good guy.
Yep.
He didn't help my mom in any way. My mom was, like I said, she was a single
Single
mom and she
mom.
was raising me by herself and
Yep.
she paid for everything on herself. And I was hanging out, alone at a very young age. And, I grew up really fast and he
Yep.
wasn't there. He didn't help, and it was really weird. Like later on when I was, I don't know, 16 or 17, I was like in high school. Yeah, he somehow got our number. I don't know how, but he called the house and he was like, "Hey, it's your dad." And I was like, okay, it was weird hearing some like strange. It was basically listening to a stranger's voice tell me,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm your dad. How you doing? I love you." And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, you don't. Who are you? I don't even know you, dude. I just don't even know who you are. You're a strange person. If you loved me, where the hell you been all these years? And he gave me his number and he was like, "Well, you should call me." And you know what I did? I threw it away because I was like, well, you didn't care enough to be around here all this other time, and now you want to show up when I'm already almost grown and you never helped my mom with shit. I just was like, I just don't care to know you. I've already, I just didn't feel a need to pursue that relationship.
There's the Karen B already making her appearance that I have come to know and love. I do love it. All right. So we have, so you did come by a certain inner strength. I can tell already early. And honestly, it sounds like you certainly your mom had that kind of temerity and intestinal fortitude to just carry on and not make complaints, just kind of keep going. And again, this is certainly characteristics that I see in you.
No, my mom was not a man hater. She wasn't a feminist. It wasn't like that. And she did have, relationships with long-term relationships, boyfriends over the years. And, it just, now she's married. She's been married to a man since 2003 and he's really great. He's awesome.
That's awesome.
But, yeah, to me, that's just how I grew up. And it's not like I didn't, I wasn't abused by any man. I didn't have an abusive father. I didn't watch my mom get abused or anything like that.
I'm not trying to read
I
anything
just
more
grew
into
up
it.
without a dad.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not trying to read anything more into it than is there, right? Other than to kind of get a picture of it. Because, again, we often model what we see growing up, right? It's kind of funny you say, no, my mom's not a man hater. And I'm like, my parents are still together. And to some degree, my mom kind of is. Right. I mean, without getting too deep into that, my mom, she desperately wanted attention from her daddy, and he died when she was very young, and so she lived the rest of her life trying to get that. Well, you can imagine how that might play itself out into some very complicated situations. So it is interesting as we get older and we look back at the things that and how we saw them in our youth versus how we see them now. Anyway, that's what I'm trying to get to, Karen. I'm just again, curious to see how you saw things through your eyes, right? Certainly how you remember seeing them then and then how you see it now. All right. So when did what was your school groups like, the people that you kind of congregated to in school? What did that look like?
Well, I was one of the people that got along with pretty much everybody.
Uh-huh.
I could go into any group of people and talk to them. Like in high school, mostly I hung out with the freaks, the weird, whatever you want to call them. I don't know, the rock and roll group, the kids that dressed all grungy and dyed hair and piercings and,
the freaks,
that's
whatever.
where I was. Yeah. And then but I could talk to even like we had a lot of Tongans and Samoans at our school, and I was friends with them. I was friends with the yuppies. I was friends with the nerds. I mean, I didn't, I didn't really care. And then whenever I went to college, I mean, I found the weirdest person in class, and that was my friend.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was one of those people. Again, it was friends with everybody, but not all in with any group. Right. So I was in all the groups, but not all in with any group. I don't know if that makes any sense. Just never really 100%, fit in with any of them. So, although I didn't have Tongans to hang out with, that would have been fun.
Yes, the Pacific Islanders. Yeah.
Those are really cool folks. I've met some groups of them here in the Pacific Northwest, and they're really cool. Oh, this was a question I meant to ask because it's something that came to me this past week in thinking about a number of different things. Like one of the things that has come up, as things sometimes do in context of spiritual conversations, is that I've never really been into rituals, right, at all, and never found Dad in the context of rituals whatsoever, and often find that for many people it's something of a crutch. And yet, I was considering it this week, and I realized that of my childhood memories, those are the ones that seem to have the most poignance, are those that were tied to ritual. For example, these days, I actually, what used to bring a little tear to my eye now brings a little bile to my throat. And that is, the Pledge of Allegiance, right? Which always kind of a creepy thing. I pledge allegiance to a flag, a piece of bunting, right?
Yeah.
And I had kind of just brought it out to talk to somebody because I was like, it never really was democracy. And to the what? The Republic,
yeah, exactly. The Republic.
Right. But ultimately, right, we get to this. And so, but this is something that used to, again, give me like a little tear in my eye, right? It's this ritual. And I started thinking through this, that many of the things that we learn as childhood rituals, whether that's, for example, wrapping presents or doing the Christmas, the holiday rituals, coloring eggs, right? All these things that we did as a ritual are the things that we tend to hold to, and that's what we attach emotions to, and emotions is what we tie our memories to. I find this fascinating, and again, thinking about how the controllers know this and how much they attach things to ritual, whether that's their own plans or ours. Right? It's a fascinating thing. What rituals do you remember from your childhood?
Rituals.
Well, okay, so for example, one of the things that I used to love about smoking marijuana, right, was the ritual. Back in the day, we'd, get the bag and we had to clean it of the stems and seeds, right? And you get it all clean, you get prepped and roll a joint. Of course, nowadays, I never roll a joint because it's all, high supercritical extraction. So it's a different kind of ritual. But do you remember like any kind of ritual specific that you used to particularly enjoy, right? A ritual of getting together with friends, doing any particular kinds of things?
Oh, yeah, we used to, one thing that my friends and I used to do, a lot of my friends were into cars. They were into Volkswagens and old Chevys, classic cars. I don't know what it was about the 90s, but you could get a really nice old Chevy for really cheap back then. Okay?
For next to nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're powerful as all hell and easy to work on. And so like that's what a lot of us did. We had these cars. There was a road by where I lived called Kenyatta Road, and we would do like drag racing, quarter-mile racing out there. And it was like, and I lived right off the road. A lot of us did. So like when you saw the cop sirens start coming, it was really easy to get off and like go hide, and and the cops would never catch you.
Right.
I don't know, just stuff like that. We would do stuff like that. The Bay Area was a really cool place to grow up because just all the cool stuff around there, and everything's so close and within driving distance. We used to go to this place in the redwoods there, because where I live, there's a lot of these little chunks of redwood forest there. Where there was this one area where there was a rope swing that a whole bunch of us knew about, and we would all ditch school and we would go smoke a bunch of pot and we
Mm-hmm.
would go to this rope swing and just swing for hours and
Now
hours.
that's
And
a
there would
ritual.
be, you'd run into all different people there
Yeah.
from all over. It was just this like the secret spot. Nobody even knew who put the swing up there. You couldn't even see where the swing was attached because the redwood trees were so huge. There's just this massive rope coming out of the tree and we all just swung from it endlessly. It was great.
See, that is awesome. This is again fun things that, for example, my wife and I discover rituals that we had growing up that we both had that we didn't know about. Right, so we didn't meet until we were in Seattle, but we both spent much of our formative years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And for example, putting on the headphones and sitting in the dark in your bedroom and listening to Pink Floyd's "The Wall" on repeat over and 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 over, right? Stuff like that. Those little rituals. Fascinating stuff. Right on. And so, talk me through in high school. This is often where people begin to start to see things sociologically. They begin to make some of their formative views. How about you? How did you begin to see things from sort of a political, social worldview? How did you see the world at that point?
Well, I started to see it as a very, I really, well, let me just premise this by saying now, looking back, I realized that at that age, though my thoughts were not my own.
Oh, yeah.
My thoughts were not my own.
Guilty.
I was being manipulated.
Yes.
Extremely manipulated. And I know that now, but back then I was like, I was starting to go down that feminist route, that fuck the patriarchal society, whatever. I was very misled, and because I was upset, I had an angst inside of me because I always knew from a very, very young age, going back to the whole Christian thing, like when I went to, the reason I don't like going to church is because one of the churches that I was going to, I went there and they played this movie called A Thief in the Night. Do you know about this movie?
I do not.
Okay, well, this movie is about the mark of the beast and the Antichrist and how it's about a story about this woman. I might have it wrong. It's been so long since I've seen it, but basically, everybody has to get the mark of the beast, and if you don't, then they kill you. They come for you and kill you. And it was basically talking about end times, and it was basically putting making it scared the living hell out of me.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, what is this crazy, scary shit? Like, this doesn't seem right. And also the other part of it too is, I never really felt like everybody would say, oh, I feel the presence of Christ, or, I feel the Holy Spirit. Well, when I was growing up and I was going to these churches, I didn't feel anything that I, at that time, could say, oh, I feel the Holy Spirit. I didn't feel what everyone around me seemed to be feeling. I just didn't get it. I felt like I was just in there from the outside looking in, even though I was there with everybody and they were like my friends and family. It was just really weird. I didn't feel right there. So I never wanted to go back to church. So fast forward, I start hanging out. You hang out with the wrong people, all these things that they feed to you through the media and the programming and everything that they were throwing at you in the 90s, that they're still, and it's worse now, but they were doing it then. And it really made me start to think that there was no God, that, maybe there wasn't. I never went full atheist, but it really made me, think, if there's all this horrible shit going on, why would God allow it? It made me really think that, all of that was just bullshit, and it made me start to go down a dark place. And that's where I was for a few years. I lied a lot. I did a lot of bad things. I snuck out of the house. I argued with my mom all the time. Everything was very tumultuous then. And that is what I was feeling at that time. But now it's like, wow, now I know I can look back and I can see all the outside influences that sort of had me going down those different paths. But yeah, that's where I was then. I was like really starting to go down a dark place at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, I was going to say, good for you if you only started to go.
Yeah.
I got in the
but,
car and put my foot down. So yeah.
like I said, arguing with my mom, I lied. I was a liar. I know I was a shithead. I was just a shitty person.
Yeah, that's one that my wife and I talk about pretty frequently. Is if there's anybody I could, we talk about, go back in time, right? Would you kill Hitler or whatever? And I'm like, the one person I go back and certainly jab slap is me. Oh dear, I could knock some sense into that boy. For sure.
Yeah, and I just started feeling all angry and blah blah. And then I don't know what happened, but like somewhere in my 20s when I was like living on my own, I was just starting to live on my own, or I ended up having to move back in with my mom. But somewhere after that, in that early 20-ish time frame, I just was like, why am I always so fucking angry? I just was like, I realized I was always angry and I always wanted to lash out. And I just didn't want to be like that anymore.
Yeah.
So I decided to not be like that anymore. And that really was like the huge change, I think.
Okay, so this is your early mid-20s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what path did you begin there? You said, okay, I don't want to be angry anymore. And so where did that lead you?
Well, I also had my first son when I was 26, and I think that was a big part of it too.
Okay, and so this must have does this then tie into the conversation that we kind of had offline a little bit, is where you began to start to put a little bit more weight into the unseen, or at least investigate more, in that you had a dream, and suddenly that dream turned out, or at least led you into a place going, hey, wait a minute, what is all this stuff? Do you care to speak about any of that, or you're like, hey, wait a minute, don't.
You mean the precognitive dream that I had mentioned
at least
before?
the one, where you said you met that one person. I assume is that the same person that was the
No, this is a different person. It was my first. This was my first
I blew it.
son
I'm sorry.
and my first husband. Yeah, and that was just that relationship. Maybe probably during that whole relationship is probably part of it too. I mean, in my 20s was just crazy. I didn't know what I was doing.
You're not the
had
only
a son,
one, kiddo.
And then I felt like I had to marry the guy that I got pregnant by because my
Right.
grandma was still alive and she was very conservative and she was like, "Are you guys gonna get married?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I feel horrible. Maybe I should,"
Oh God,
So
Karen,
then
you're
I got
telling my
married
story
and I
there.
didn't
Oh,
love
Jesus.
him and that marriage sucked. I mean, it's just we don't have to talk about all that stuff. But anyways.
No, but I feel you there, because oh God, I had some of those same experiences. My 20s was a freaking disaster, man. I'm surprised I survived that shit, man. What was I doing? I mean, God, just too much. Yeah. I thought I knew some shit back then. You know what? What an idiot. All right. So,
Yeah. It
yeah.
was just, yeah. I should have had a helmet on probably through my
Crash
entire
helmet.
20s.
I know it. Oh, this is why I do give a lot of grace to those younger folks. I mean, I know they are slightly retarded, but so was I. I'm sorry. I just had a flashback seeing myself in my early to mid 20s, just going, "Oh, how did he not die?" That's just crazy. All right. Okay. Take us anywhere you want us to go. So I was kind of starting to look at the sort of the formative years when you're starting to make some of your ideas, and like you said, you were being conditioned by the world, programmed by the world to have certain ideas about the nature of relationships between men and women, between people and each other. Certainly, you see this sort of in high school, and as you get out of high school, tell me about some of the primary things that you see there. What are some, if you can walk us through major areas that kind of, I don't know, motivational things that you saw? Like what are things that you see and you go, I want to fix that, or this is how this is what makes the world the way it is. Kind of walk me through some of that if you can.
Okay. Well, I would say that probably the biggest the one thing that majorly started changing my worldview was having a child. I think I would have to say that that's probably the first thing that it changes literally everything.
It did for me, yeah.
Yeah, because then it's not about you anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's about you anymore.
Yeah.
At least for a mom, that's how I felt. It just becomes everything about your child. That becomes the thing that you think about first in every decision that you make.
Yep.
So that was the first probably major thing that changed. And then when I divorced my first husband, he moved out, and then I was really happy, like right after that happened. And then I was like, great. I was hanging out. I just was working. Worked at a print shop. I had my son, it just seemed I was very happy after that, just being by myself. I didn't want to be with anybody. And that is when my second husband came into my life. That's when I had that crazy dream, and then he showed up, and that was like exactly what I had dreamed was now at my front door. And I took it as a sign. It was like it was fate telling me something, or the universe telling me something, like this is who I'm really supposed to be with, because he had the outward appearance of being very together and responsible. He had a good job. He was very smart. And the other thing too is that I knew him from before. Like we were friends in high school, although we never dated in high school. I knew him from high school, and we were always friends, not best friends, just friends in the same circle of friends. And I just had nothing really bad to say about him from high school.
A lot of stuff lining up there. Yeah. A lot of things you'd go, hey, this seems like a sign.
Yeah. And so we got along really well. We started talking, and at the time he was in the military, and he was stationed in San Diego, and I was living in Sacramento, and he would literally fly from San Diego to Sacramento every weekend to come see me for like months. He did that.
No, that's commitment. Yeah.
And he always, he just said all the right things, did all the right things. He was very chivalrous. And so when he asked me to marry him, I was like, yeah, because everything was really good. And now looking back, there was a couple of red flags, but at the time it didn't seem like, I didn't consider it anything that was a deal breaker, because he was, he never did anything bad, or never, nothing really happened until after we were actually married and had been married for a couple months. That's when everything started to go downhill.
Yeah. As it often does occur.
Mm-hmm.
And another conversation my wife and I have had, right, about those who have those kinds of issues. They can fool you for a while at a distance, but as soon as you start being in contact with them constantly, that's when it starts to fall apart. They just can't keep up the facade anymore, and all those cracks begin to show. Okay, so what was some of the first indication that some of the major biggies, the major stories that we've been told that really define our world are perhaps not as solid? When did you find out that they were lies, Karen?
Okay, well, I found out I knew about 9/11 for a long time. Because when I worked
from like 1994 or
huh?
I said from a long time, so like from 1994 or
no, from 2006. I would think it was around 2006, 2007 time frame.
Okay. Yep. All right.
Is when I woke up to 9/11. But the extent to which I woke up to 9/11 was that it was an inside job and the government let it happen so that they could start a perpetual war and become rich off war and be warmongers and empire builders
Got it.
for the perpetual foreseeable future.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
And so that was kind of what it was. And then, of course, I was just kind of busy living my life, doing whatever I was doing, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, then while I'm married to my second husband, that's when I really started to look even deeper into stuff. And this was 2011, 2012 timeframe. And that is after we had moved from California to North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So we moved to North Carolina and I was living here out in the woods. And this is when the forest people came into my life. And because we moved out here and I had been working, like I'd had a full-time job, all my life, all my adult life, until I moved out here, and we were able to get a house, and my husband made a good living, and I became a stay-at-home mom in 2011. So I was home. Suddenly, I was home all the time, constantly, and I had a baby. I was just taking care of babies, or one child and a baby at the time. Okay. So I started to look online at stuff. I started to do certain things online and and I started looking at I started to see stuff on Facebook, people sharing things, you just start clicking on things that pique your interest. And I just started randomly looking at stuff. And then, then I said, like, I started having experiences with the forest people, which is one thing I started looking at online, right? I started joining these groups of people talking about their experiences and blah, blah, blah. And so I started getting into that again. And that then sort of opened up the avenues to other things coming into my feed. And that's when I started looking at like chemtrails, especially chemtrails, because after I'd been looking at stuff for a couple of years, when I moved from California to North Carolina, one of the things, like I even talk about this in my video, My Path to Flat Earth, I was like, dude, the sky is clear here. The air is clean. It smells good. I'm like, this is the freshest air I've ever smelled, besides standing right at the ocean. Yeah, right. Yeah. And it was nice. And then a few years later, they started spraying the skies. And I was like, okay, this shit was not here just a couple of years ago. Like last year and the year before, this was not going on. And it was noticeable. And then I started seeing stuff, looking at stuff about it. And then, of course, you start running into activists, people talking about chemtrails, and then yada, yada, yada. That's where it goes, Yeah. So Bigfoot got me into this, back into, looking at truth.
Okay, so was it an experience, a firsthand experience that made you go whoa, or did you a secondhand experience, or just curiosity, and then some firsthand experience? What walk me through that?
Okay, it was firsthand experience because I had always had an interest in Bigfoot, obviously, because growing up in Northern California, that's a huge thing there. That's just part of the area, right? Bigfoot lives there. I had never had any experiences. I was like all the time very, very curious about it. But over the years, I just never saw anything besides the Patterson Gimlin video that looked like anything of any substance. And I just sort of lost interest and begin to think, well, maybe they don't exist. And I, just kind of lost interest. Well, then I moved here, and one night we had this dog. Not the same dog I have now, but a different dog that my ex had found on the side of the road, brought it home. And anyways, I had nursed it back to health, and I was taking it out to go potty at 11 o'clock at night out, and there's woods around our house because it's the same street I live on now, but just across the street. And it's all random patches of woods everywhere between the houses. Well, I was walking the dog along the wood line to go to the bathroom, and where she had been going no problem for weeks before. And I walk out there, and she just stopped. She stopped before I could get close to the wood line, and she wouldn't freaking move. She froze, and I was like, what is wrong with you? And that is when the smell hit my face like a wall. It was just, it was like it was like the dirtiest, nastiest, raunchiest, smelliest wet dog smell times 100. It filled the air.
Musk doesn't quite cover it, does it?
Yeah, I mean thick. Like there's and it comes on like suddenly. It's like a switch. It's like on and then it's off and then it's on.
I
You know
laugh
what I'm saying?
because if you've not experienced it, you wouldn't know. But those who have just do. There's as she's there's it's indescribable. But there's I can kind of taste it right now.
Yeah.
All these
So
many years later. Yeah.
I'm just going, I'm going, what is that smell? Right? I even said it. I was like, God, what is that smell? Right? Because it was awful. And then, and I'm like trying to look in the woods and I just heard two steps, crunch, crunch. And like, I cannot, you know, convey to you the sound of these steps through my voice. I couldn't even replicate it the next day in the woods with my feet. Went in the woods the next day and I was like, what sounds like that when it steps? I was like, what does it sound like when I step here? And it was like, all I can tell you is it sounded like a giant was in the woods and it took two steps. And at that moment when I heard those steps and I smelled that smell and the dog wouldn't move, I just felt this like wave of like intense fear come over me. I was just like, oh my God, what the hell is in the woods? What's in the woods?
What?
And I just like went back in the house and to my husband and I was like, there's something in the woods. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. You know, and I was telling him what happened and he's like, well, maybe it was just a buck. And I was like, no, it's not what it was.
So let's touch on that for a moment because it is true, and this is. I mean, I know we're not going to come to an answer, but talk to me about your sense on that because I think all of us have had the sense that we know there's something out there that shouldn't be there. Right. So, it's funny. You go, there's something in the woods. And my engineer part would go, well, there's a lot of things in the woods. You want to start counting? Right. I make those funny jokes. And my wife slaps me at the side of the head and goes, that's not funny. But you instinctively know that something is there and something that ought not be there, despite the fact that you can't otherwise sense it. I mean, I suppose you could smell it, right? You kind of heard something. But so close your eyes for a moment and walk me through that sense of it. If you can, kind of go into slow motion and walk me through what your senses tell you.
Well, when I was standing there and I heard these two heavy steps. I mean, it's heavy, big steps. That's all. I can't describe it any other way than that, but I just felt like it's like you feel a wave starts at your. I felt. Now, I don't know. Maybe it was something that the creature was doing now at the time. I felt it. Like I just felt it start at my head and it went all the way down to my feet. Maybe it was scanning me. I don't know.
That's what I'm kind of getting to, right? It's just how did you feel in that moment?
It was like something started at my head and it was like down. It went down my whole body and I felt it go all the way down to my toes. And then I was like, what the fuck?
Interesting. Yes, I find this, again, fascinating that there are so many aspects of, again, consciousness and memory, that sense of that somebody's watching you. Right. How do you quantify that? And yet it's accurate so many times. It's been proven over and over that when we do research, we can find that far better than would be statistically significant. Can people tell when they're being watched versus when they're not? Pretty remarkable.
Well, if you're paying attention to your intuition, you'll know.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And also these amazing stories, and again, they're pretty well documented. Although they don't get a lot of it's been redacted, sadly. But the stories of the Native Americans that were drafted into World War II as scouts because they were terrific scouts, and they had long hair. And of course, when they cut their hair off for the military, they suddenly lost their scouting ability. And of course, they certainly said that it had to do with their ability to focus in on things. And I know if you kind of cross that with was it the Tula Society and the gals over there in Germany pre-World War II, they were certainly into their long hair and said it was their antenna. They used it to pick up on things. I have absolutely no problem with the plausibility that there is some. I mean, the hair on the back of your neck stands up when there is something unusual happening. Certainly things of what we would describe of supernatural experiences. That's one of the first things that happens is the you get goosebumps, right? Your hair stands on end.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. All right. So, and this is, that's the first experience that you've had with any sort of, so this is cryptozoology, but so any sort of supernatural phenomena other than perhaps that precog dream?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been various things over the years. A lot of stuff happened when I was very young. Um, like I was telling Ted the other day that I was like, there's something about when you're a child, it's the veil is very thin, I think, because
Yes.
I actually remember a lot from being young. I have a lot of memories. I remember being a baby in diapers, actually.
Wow.
I have a memory of being a baby in diapers with a pacifier in my mouth, and I used a chair from the kitchen table to stand up in the kitchen to look around.
That's pretty awesome.
And I remember how the inside of the apartment looked like, and I described it to my mom, and she was like, "Wow, you remember that? I think we left there before you were 2 or a
Wow.
year and a half or something."
Wow. That's heavy.
So, and I remember seeing things, like I'll think back to when I was young, and I was at preschool, and there was a time when I was in preschool and I was sitting inside and looking out the window, and I would have sworn to you up and down that I saw a little person in the bushes out the window, like a leprechaun.
Okay. I mean, you're not going to get me
You know,
you're not
but
going to get
it's
me to
like,
say no.
And I think about things like that, and I think, they tell you if you tell someone, if I told an adult at that time, I saw a leprechaun out the window, they'd say, "Oh, you have an overactive imagination. You're imagining stuff."
They would, yes.
You know?
But
But
I agree with
am
you,
I?
Karen. No, I agree. I agree with you both from my own experience and from the observation, having grown up, having had kids, seeing other people raise their kids. When I was a youngster, certainly the veil was thinner, and I've told a couple of stories. I learned very quickly, don't tell those stories, right? Keep your mouth shut because people are uncomfortable hearing those kinds of things. They didn't want any part of it. And I see this. I mean, one of the first things that they do, right? And this is me. I got so angry when I found this out. Is when people with newborn babies, they put silver nitrate in their eyes, and it's supposed to, supposedly for conjunctivitis. There's almost no in the modern world. There's almost no conjunctivitis ever. What it does is it literally blinds you. It literally closes the veil so that you can't see those things. It's it infuriates me. And this is the sort of thing, but so many, again, children see it until they're told not to, right?
Yeah.
I see this over and over, that they see it and they just, I don't know if they outgrow it so much as they've had it beat out of them.
That's what I say. I think that we get educated out of it.
Yeah, agreed.
We get told it's nonsense, and so we believe it, and so whatever we believe makes
It's true.
it so.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So we'll fast forward again. So you've had experiences now with the forest people. This got you starting to look around. And this is in the after you realize that 911 is an inside job. And so government's bad. They're not going to tell us the truth. All right. So what's next for Karen?
Then in the summer of 2014, the same time that they were starting to spray chemtrails, I think, was it 2014? I think that was the last time that there was a major conflict whenever the last major conflict between Israel and the Gaza Strip and Palestine was, where when that happened, that's when I started looking at really heavily at alternative media and different reports. And I started seeing that they were like literally chasing boys down the beach who were playing soccer with jets. that kind of bugged me out.
Yeah.
That's when I started realizing like how that's when I started learning about, you know, that whole area and the Jews and Israel and Zionism and all the different, that whole
Yeah.
rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, and there are so many, right? I mean, it's not as if any one of them, right? When I always, or frequently will ask this of people when they'll start saying, they did. I go, okay, who is they? Because you'll always get a different answer typically. But of course, my position is all of them. Like, who is it?
Mm-hmm.
They? Yes. It's just a big yes to all of them. Right. But it is curious to see how, people do get very emotionally invested in their favorite version of the narrative.
Yeah. I think that might have been 2012.
Rather than 2014.
Yeah. When the last major conflict was.
Okay.
I can't remember, but it was a while ago. It was years ago that they really had the last time where they had like one that they, where they were really seriously bombing the crap out of them.
Right. I think, I want to say it was 2011, 2012, something, I think.
I think it was around that time. Yeah, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started also learning about, looking into government and seeing, why would we be pledging allegiance with a country that does things like this? And then you start to learn about how there's like a lot of them holding dual citizenship between Israel and the United States. And then, then you watch that pig from over there come over here and start talking to our politicians, and they're all giving him standing ovations, and and clearly they're all rotten pieces of shit.
Yeah.
And so that is when I started to realize that it's like I think at that time too I started getting into the like libertarian phase of things, because I was like, I hated Democrats and Republicans, and then here comes the libertarian thing and that whole like controlled opposition bullshit story, right? But then if you're smart, it really doesn't take long to go from like libertarian to just full on anarchy in just a few months if you're really paying attention.
Right. Yep. I agree. You're just like, hey, wait a minute. Why don't you just fuck all that shit, man? I don't need you guys. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So that's where I was, and then that's when I found Flat Earth.
Dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
And then and then you had to change your name to Karen BFE.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Karen lost all her relationships. She lost her job, her house, her car, her cats.
I already have a job, so that part was okay. And like I said, I was a stay-at-home mom, so I didn't, lose anything that way. And behind the scenes, my marriage was already a very horrible, abusive nightmare.
Oh, dear.
Long before Flat Earth, right? Long before I even started talking about red pill stuff to him, it was in the shitter. Big time.
Okay, so it's not just a good excuse if you're looking to get out of a marriage to go, hey, I'll just say the world is flat and then I'll have a good excuse. It's better. It's better than adultery.
It might work for somebody, but that's not what happened to my marriage.
It's better than adultery right there. You just whip that shit out. And no, okay. Right. So yeah, that was already heading. It was auguring in. All right. And so I described mine was probably 4 sleepless nights and about 10 days of confusion before I finally went, oh, fuck. How long did it take you, Karen? What?
Probably a little bit longer than that. Probably about a week. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I probably spent a week solid looking at stuff, Googling stuff, trying to answer questions, asking questions, going back and forth, blah, blah, blah. Probably about a week. And then I was like, fuck. Fuck. I was like,
I know.
Owen Benjamin drinking the White Claw on the porch.
I know.
It's like, oh my God.
I can't be one of those people.
Yeah.
I've never had a White Claw. It's never gonna happen.
I was drinking White Claw for a couple of weeks. I only had to get sick off them once to stop that shit.
One time. I mean, I'm not saying I guess I never would. Like, if you gave me one and said, "Here's $1,000, drink it," I'd be like, "Yeah, fine, $1,000." But I'm not gonna just go out there and get on purpose go have a White Claw. Not gonna happen. Okay, so that was a biggie. I think as it is for many people. And so what follows up on that? What do you follow that with? You go, okay, wait a minute. Now, so forest people, we got that going. 9/11 inside job. But what this? Come on, right? So what do you go from there? What happens next?
Well, I really didn't do anything for the next like 5 to 6 months after I kind of succumbed to the fact that the Earth is not a ball.
Okay.
I just walked around and I just started looking at everything with my globe goggles removed.
Okay, yeah.
The globe goggles were removed.
Yes.
And so I just started looking around and at the world, at the sky, at everywhere I went. I just started looking at it without the globe goggles on and thinking, well, how is this place working? I just started observing it in a different way because now I'm looking at it totally different, right? So now I just basically was like, okay, I just started observing. That's what I did.
Awesome. No, see that is that's the amazing thing, because what happened? I guess fill us in on that. What happened when you began observing? What happened then?
I just started realizing that that none of what goes on in our day-to-day life relies on the Earth being a globe. None of it.
None of it.
Not a fucking thing.
Winner, chicken dinner. And for me, that was, I think, a gateway to realizing, it made it certainly easier to realize that everything else. So I began to challenge every other narrative after that. And as I pressed on it, they all came crashing down really quickly. Right? Suddenly you realize that the entire set is paper mache. You're like, oh my God, I thought this place was legit. This is, where the fuck are we? This is a joke. This place is a joke. What the fuck? Yeah.
Exactly.
So
where the fuck are we?
I started, checking up on all this stuff. So next one for me was Skelegerian timeline. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, come on, guys. Right. So once you get those out of the way, it all falls apart. You're like, okay. I mean, you could tell me green lizard people. Okay. Whatever. Maybe. Right? Mandela effect. Maybe. You know what? I don't know. I've been lied to plenty, and so often that, I don't know what to say anymore. That's kind of what happened. When did you, what was it that made you start wanting to speak out about it, Karen?
Well, I have children, and I was like, when I found out my daughter was 3 and my son was 5, right? So he was like in kindergarten and my daughter was, still very young. She was with me every day. So that's when I found out. And I was just like, and then my son comes home with this free book from kindergarten, and it's The Cat in the Hat with a globe on it. And it's a whole thing about global warming. And I was just like, oh, shit.
That'll do it. Yep.
Okay. Then I was like, okay, I have to do something. We have to start talking about this. I have to find other people. Like, is this, people are going to, and this was where my naivety sort of kicked in. I was like, people are going to want to know. I mean, nobody wants to be lied to, right? Like, I don't want to be lied to. And this goes back to the whole thing when I was young and in like a really dark place and I was being a shithead and I lied all the time. I stopped lying because I didn't want to lie anymore. I hated being a liar. I didn't want to keep up with my lies. I knew it was the wrong thing to do. So I stopped lying. I told my mom, like I had a big, thing where I told my mom I'm never, it was just a big thing where I just decided lying is bullshit. I'm never going to lie again, or I don't want to lie.
Yep.
And I don't want to be lied to. And then, so fast forward to all this stuff. I'm like, dude, we're all being fucking lied to. everybody on a mass scale lies, right? And then I'm like, my child comes up to me and asks me something like, am I supposed to lie to my child now? Like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't allow that to go on. So that is when I started making my video, and I started reaching out to people. Like, that's when I reached out to Zach, who was Decimal Z, but back then he was Dr. Zach, and he was trying to, figure out, build the map and do sun tracking and blah, blah, blah. I started getting involved with that because I was like, I need to learn as much about, what is really going on here, because then I'm going to have to turn around and tell my children that, so that they are armed with as much information when they grow up and get unleashed into this freaking world, right? Because I can't just keep them out of it. Eventually, they're going to grow up and they're going to have to go live their life. So I decided that I'm going to go try to find out as much information as I can that is actual true information, so that I can tell them, so that they don't walk into this place completely oblivious to the deception and the traps set up at every turn for them. So that's why I started.
Yes.
That's why.
But I'm not kidding when I go, yes. This is what I see, and this is one. See, I look for the common denominator, right? This is why people coalesce with one another, right? Deep calls unto deep. Spirit calls unto spirit. We look at these things, at least I do. What are the least common denominators? Why do people come together? And for me, it's I can tell the reason why I like you, right? It's your commitment to truth that way. See, I also dislike liars a lot. A lot. And so I have no patience for politicians. I just throat punch all of them, frankly. And so that commitment that you have to the truth, I'm like, yes, Karen. This is why I like you, right? That's the kind of thing that gets me going, is commitment to the truth at any cost, no matter whatever the cost. That's right, Ted. Fuck the fucking fuckers. That's exactly where that comes from, right? I put that actually above my. It was at my office there for a very long time. I had a coat of arms made. It's a nolo concopulatus, basically. Fuck with me not.
Yeah.
Because don't fuck with me not. So yeah, got that going. All right, and so when was this? What year was that? That's what made it happen. So what year was that? How long ago?
That was 2015.
Okay, so 5 years.
2016,
6 years.
yeah.
All right, 5-6 years ago, and
well, but I didn't actually release my first video until January of 2017. That's when I published my first video. But in the year before that, that's when I was very active on Facebook and in different groups and doing and learning, still learning, obviously. But
God,
that was
you have been active everywhere. I mean, you are you can't go anywhere and not see Karen B. Yes, everywhere out there, because, well, not only are you have gotten now very well informed, but you certainly have a way of expressing yourself that is well, inimitable to be certain. And you have done a variety of voiceovers for people, everyone from Dr. John D. to Globebusters and a whole bunch of folks for FE Core, a variety of people, because you have a smooth and compelling voice.
I can.
Yes. And yes, you can. Yes, you can also frighten folks when you want to.
Yeah.
Yes. That's beautiful. And all right. So what's next for Karen B?
Wow. I got a lot. You mean next now? I don't know, man. I got so much stuff coming up that I've signed myself up for this year. I'm going to be really, really busy this year. I'm not going to lie. Very busy. Lie. Because I have the Flattoberfest thing, right? I did the Flattoberfest.
Right.
And people really like it, and they want me to keep it going, and I want to keep it going. So I'm going to do my best to keep that going.
Yes.
And in that vein, I bought flatearthfestivals.com, so that it's not just Flattoberfest, it's just anything, any event,
Flat Earth
anywhere.
Festivals, yes.
it'll any of them that I'm involved with will fall under that Flat Earth festivals, and they'll be on that website. And it could be, and we're going to start maybe trying to help other people in other areas get these things going and get like-minded people together, because we need to start networking. We need to start building relationships. We need to start being solution orientated. You know what I mean? Like, we need to start working on solutions. So this is what I want to be part of that. I don't want to just sit here and be a loudmouth and complain about everything anymore. Now I just want to do stuff. I want to help people. I want to move forward. I want to go to the next level. I want to start living my life without being under the thumb of these tyrannical assholes.
Absolutely. And yes, in fact, I think I know of a particular bald guy who encouraged you to get those websites.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, so that you could do that. And in fact, this goes back to a conversation that you and I were having before we opened the doors to the folks this morning, which is I told Karen that I'd had this dream, right? And one of the things that came out of this dream was it is time to stop talking and it's time to start doing. Trying to convince people is over. That doorway is closed, and now it is time to take the next steps, and that is this time to start doing and to do for us. And so we're going to continue along that vein. And I know that, again, I'm in, certainly, with this idea of trying to develop the community and perhaps, again, in more than just one place, if we can do this at a variety of different places so that people can experience this all over the place. For themselves, not just in the United States, but around the world, in a way that is functional and that we can support one another. Man, I'm all in for that. So color me in, kids. I'm down. We're going to be working for that definitely this year as we move forward. So again, likely that you'll be seeing my smiling face soon. Sorry about your luck, Karen.
I can't freaking wait. You have no idea. I love it. Bob and Cammie live out here now. There's already like a really big group of local flat earthers here in the Carolinas, and the more the merrier, man.
Well,
I can't wait.
It seems like that's where I'm getting pointed, is that direction. So here we go. All right, so you got that going, which is nice. Anything else? So you got new channels coming, a movie, what? Anything that we should know about? Because you have been flipping everywhere. I mean, just like all over the place. You're hanging out with Mark Sargent, of course, and then you show up with Brian, and you show up with me on Cocky Pop whenever Rose can't make it. You are just everywhere. So what are we looking for you?
Well, all those places, I do Karen B, my channel, Karen B. I also have a backup channel, Unveiling This Realm. I'm also on D Live. I have links to other platforms where all my videos get uploaded as well. But really, what my main focus is going to be probably for the next few months is going to be Flat Earth festivals. I just started working on the website, flatearthfestivals.com. You'll even go there. It's like just a template right now. It's not even pointing to Flattoberfest anymore. But I am going to be working on that and get that going. And then I already have my first event that I'm going to be putting out under Flat Earth Festivals, which is going to be happening in Macon, Georgia, March 20th, 2021, which is actually on the weekend of the equinox. So it's going to be the true New Year celebration, which is something I wanted to do. I wanted to get an event together where we had a real New Year celebration when life returns, when
Yes.
spring comes and new life is back. That's when the new year really should be celebrated. And so that's what I want to do. And this time it's not with a lot of speakers, but I want it to be more the creative side of Flat Earth. So it's music, art.
Oh, yeah.
It's being held where we have the venues called the Macon Arts Center. They have a stage. I'm working with Nathan Miller again, commercial sound and video. So the sound's going to be
awesome.
Professional. So I'm looking to book some musicians. I'm looking for artists who want to come and put their artwork on display. You can sell it there if you want.
Baristas.
I won't take a cut. Just come and put it on display. Just come be part of it. Just, I just want all that. I want it to be a very festive, creative celebration, fun. I'm even open to like spoken word or poetry
slams. Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
I'm in for that. I can do that. And make an art center, right? Making art.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We're going to be making smart
art. That's right. I love it. I love it. I love you, Karen. What do you see coming next in the world? I know gloom and doom. Fuck that shit. Just don't worry about being right or wrong. Just what does your spidey senses say? What's up next?
I'll be honest. What I see happening is just a bigger divide between those who can see and those who can't. That's the only thing that am sure of.
Well, I know. I mean, that's the thing, right? What we know that for sure. No, you're absolutely right. So I'll give you that 100%. Let's see, what are we doing here? I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Because we know that. So I'll leave that one. Karen B knocks it out of the park with an accurate prediction. There you go. See, 11:11. I did it perfectly, guys. Awesome. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock, for Ancient Wisdom for Modern World, as we go through some proverbs and sayings and probably some noodlings. And then tomorrow evening, sort of scriptural. We'll sneak some of that in there. I might even come up with a special guest for that. Karen, thank you again for joining us this morning. It's always a delight to talk to you, and it's wonderful for me to get to know you a little bit better this morning. Thanks for spending the time.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
That sounds kind of like you're just humoring me, but I'll take it anyway.
No, you're the best.
No, you guys are. All right. Tell Brian I said hi, and make that coffee better. I'll teach you how one day. I'll actually teach you how to make that coffee. All right, guys. Let's see. I think Rose 777. She says she's probably going to make it back for a Poppycock report this week. So keep your eyes open for that. Let's see what we got here. I'll drop this for you. It's called More Than I've Ever Seen. 1993, I think, in somewhere that neck of the woods, from Joe, Ray, and myself. And thanks, everybody, for being along with us this morning. It's always a pleasure and a delight. I'll try to write down some more of the stuff that I got from the dream. Could be interesting to see what's coming up next, guys. I love each and every one of you. Thanks for being here.
Still burns inside with a light that I cannot hide. I walk on the edge of time, ride the winds of destiny. I hear the thunder's coming, bringing me to my knees, like nothing I've ever seen. In my mind I hear the voices calling. In my mind I see the planets collide. In my mind I feel the end beginning. It's like waking up from a dream. It's more than I've ever seen. Shadows fall like angels' tears, leaves darkness on every shore. The seasons, morning light, this fire.